Welcome to the Actually You Can podcast. I'm Miff Galloway, a performance coach passionate about supporting ambitious and high-performing women just like you who know they have untapped potential just waiting to be unleashed. If you're looking to massively up-level your performance in all areas of life, you've come to the right place. My goal on this podcast is to take you beneath the surface so you can connect with yourself on a deeper level while providing you with valuable insights and the tools necessary to navigate life's challenges and go after your goals with strength, clarity, and wisdom. If you're ready to uncover the truth which lies underneath so you can recognize your powerful feminine leadership style, pursue your goals unapologetically, and thrive in every aspect of your life, hit the follow button and get ready to explore the incredible possibilities that lie within you. Together, we'll uncover your next steps in achieving peak performance, because actually, you can. Welcome to another episode of Actually You Can. Today, I have the absolute pleasure of welcoming Rosie to the show, who has a mission to help eradicate the corporate world's gender gap by empowering women in their career development. She helps women recognize how they're holding themselves back by not asking for what they want, failing to negotiate their salaries, or being too afraid to apply for jobs they don't think they're qualified for, because she believes every woman deserves to land her dream job. Rosie, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Miff, for having me here. I am so excited to talk about empowering women in the world.
And so I've been talking to a lot of women actually at the moment. It's funny we're having this conversation who are saying they feel stuck in their career and they're looking for support in that area. Out of interest, what are some contributing factors for women feeling stuck? What do you see?
I think the biggest contributor myth is not that they don't have time or that they're busy. It's that they are not intentional with managing their career. And so I teach my clients to create a custom career roadmap. And I think that's the secret weapon.
I'd love to learn more about that. What does a custom career roadmap look like? I don't know what it is, but I want one.
Yes. So the custom career roadmap is a journey of self-discovery for yourself. There's 4 phases, and the first phase is essentially the curiosity phase. This is where what is it that you aspire to be? And if you're not happy in your job or you're not happy in your role right now, start asking yourself why you're not happy. Start, getting curious. Is it the boss? Is it the job? Is it the tasks? It might just be that you need to be more challenged. It might be that you want to transfer teams or transfer jobs or industries, any of those things. So you want to aspire to step into this life that you are creating, because people are always, saying, oh, I'm stuck in my job, but you really have to design and create your life. And that's why I say you need to be intentional. The second phase is where you assess yourself. So this is where you discover your skills. Which skills do you need to develop for the job that you want? Create your core values. Understand what your core values are, because a lot of people don't take the time to discover their core values. And so this is where you're assessing the types of jobs. Once you know what you want to do, then assess the types of companies and jobs that you want to have. Then you move on to the advice phase. And this is where you ask peers or leaders for advice about how they ascended their career, but also get feedback on you. So it's always good to say, hey, what do I do well and what can I do better, so that you can uncover your blind spots about yourself, because you don't know how others see you or what gaps there are. And then the final step is advertise. And this is where I went wrong in my career. I was ready for that next step, but I didn't verbalize it. And once I did, that's when things started happening. But there's a lot more in those phases than I just gave you a little overview of each one. And for example, the resume, the story vault, there's just so many different components of the custom career roadmap. And the cool thing about having a custom career roadmap is that the more you prepare, the more confident you become. And
Mm.
then at the end, I call that being promotion ready for that next opportunity. When it lands in your lap, you are ready and you're the best, most qualified candidate.
I love that. And I look forward to digging into those phases in a little more detail. A burning question that I have is, can you find a job that you actually love? Is that humanly possible?
It is. It is humanly possible. I wholeheartedly believe that. And that's where the curiosity piece comes in. And I do certified high performance coaching. And this is a 12-week program. And every week it's like peeling back the onion. We talk about different things such as clarity for your life, energy. Where do you get that energy? Where do you get courage, influence, and then several other topics. And every session that I have with my clients, they get an aha moment, a little breakthrough about themselves. They're like, oh, I am the expert in human resources, and I've been discounting myself, which when you
Yeah.
discount your expertise, that's a way of holding yourself back. So every breakthrough that they have, it gives them that confidence to actually step into their expertise, which again becomes a confidence builder. And the more they do that, the more they can own their presence and their expertise.
And how easy is it, in your experience, for women to readily share their expertise, be able to know them off the top of their head and confidently communicate them? What has been your experience with women in that area?
They're shy to share their expertise, and that's one of the pieces of the custom career roadmap is creating that phrase. So for example, mine is, hi, I'm Rosie Zilinskas, I'm a career coach, and I empower women in the corporate world to advance their careers with intention and confidence. So as easy as what you do, who you'd help, and how you do it, that's and that is, I mean, I'm an entrepreneur, but that can translate to a person that is in the corporate world. It can translate to an individual contributor, a leader. I think people that are individual contributors don't see themselves as an expert, as a leader, but you don't have to lead people to be a leader. So
Mm.
building those pieces of the custom career roadmap are really, really important. And I'm super passionate about this. So I don't know if you can tell, but I love talking about this.
Yeah, I love it. You can clearly see the passion in your eyes as you talk to this sort of stuff. So, before we dig deeper, I would love to hear a bit more about your story in this particular area. Have you always been in a role that you really enjoyed? Have you felt confident communicating your expertise, or what has been your journey to date?
Well, I'm 100% Mexican. I'm really white complected, so people don't know that about me. But the reason why I say that is because I lived in Mexico back and forth a few times when I was growing up. And no, I wasn't confident growing up because every 4 to 5 years, my dad moved us from the Chicago area to Mexico, and then we moved to Texas, and just back and forth a few times. And every time we moved, it was fear, it was language. I vividly remember starting my freshman year in high school, not knowing what the class of 1987 was. I'm like, I had no idea what that meant. So as time went on, I knew, and my parents couldn't help me with that because they didn't know anything about it. They weren't the type of parents that would help you research. And we didn't have Google back then or
Right.
anything like that. So I had to figure it all out on my own. And I was the first person in my family to go to college. So I have two older sisters. They couldn't help me. So finally, I got into the corporate world and I'm very motivated. So every 3 to 4 years, I would get a promotion. But then, right around 40, between 35 and 40, I went through a really bad divorce, financially decimated. And I knew that at that time, I had to make more money because I had two little people that now depended on me. My kids were 4 and 6 at the time, and I was the sole financial provider. And I knew I needed to do something. And I was promotion ready at the time. I had been working in my career, but nothing was happening. And I saw a couple people that were younger than I was, that were not as experienced. They were getting promoted, and I'm like, what the heck? And then one day I finally realized that I had to go and talk to the leader and say, "Hey, I'm interested in becoming a
Mm.
manager. Like, what can I do?" And his response was, "Oh, really?" Which shocked me. So that's the lightning bolt coming through my head going like, "Yes, what do you mean, oh, really? I'm a top
Yeah.
performer. I'm doing training. I'm doing all the things, but I wasn't vocal." And when
Mm.
I said, "What do you mean? Oh, really?" He's like, "Well, you never said anything." And that was the defining moment in my life that I was like, "Oh my gosh, why didn't I say something earlier?" And that's when everything started changing for me. So I stepped into a management role shortly thereafter. And then what happened the next time I went for an executive vice president position, which is where I just retired from, and I did everything completely different. And this is how I came up with this custom career roadmap concept, because I was like a dog with a bone. I knew that I had to do things differently. And I started what I call campaigning for me. And that changed everything. And the company that I was working for at the time, very competitive company. And out of 10 candidates, I was the unanimous choice for the position, not because I was smarter than anybody, but because I was the most prepared candidate, because I had
Mm.
been working my career intentionally for 6 months
Mm.
before we even got to the interview process. So I had, and I was staying with the same company. So I had my succession plan for the person that was coming into
Yeah.
my position. I had a 90-day plan, which I call the secret weapon. Anybody that's interviewing for jobs should come with a 90-day plan. It's going to be fictitious, right? Because
Mm.
all you have is the information from the website and the job. But coming in with a 90-day plan is a huge differentiator from anybody else. It is your secret weapon. And so I had my brother-in-law interview me, my sister interview me, I hired a coach. I created my story vault, which is I answered like 30 different behavioral interview questions. And then out of those, I picked 10, like the top 10 accomplishments, and I turned them into that PAS format, like problem,
Yeah.
agitation, solution. And then when you do all of this, you are ultra prepared, and then your confidence builds. And I think I heard on one of your other podcasts, competence builds confidence. And that's exactly when I heard that, I was like, oh my gosh, that's it. I said, I need to tell Miff that I heard that on your other podcast, because it is so true. Competence builds confidence. And I'm going to steal that because I just heard it on your show. And it is so true. And that's where I became an executive vice president, and I was doing leadership and training for a team of about 100 people at the time. And I noticed all the women coming in, especially younger women stepping into their
Mm.
role as full-time employees and not speaking up, not asking questions. And that's how my whole journey started, because I never saw myself as an entrepreneur. I mean, I always said, "Oh no, I need my check in my, in my bank every 2 weeks
Yeah.
without a doubt." But I was propelled and pushed into, the career that I have now, which is a career coach. And I'm
Yeah.
also a speaker, and I speak to women about
Mm.
career advancement. So that's a little bit about my story, Miff.
Amazing. And there's so much here I'd love to delve back on. Most recently, you mentioned supporting younger women who are entering in the workforce. And I remember hearing on someone else's podcast that we die at the age of 25, but don't get buried until the age of 77 in the US, for example. And the premise for that quote is we go through life, we go through school, we finish college, and then we get a career. And without even thinking about it, we might stick with that career until we retire without even questioning it, or to your point, being intentional about our career. What would you say to someone who is just finishing college and they're at risk of dying at 25 and being buried at 77 to start being really intentional about their career? Like, I'm thinking of one, a good girlfriend in particular. She's in that crossroads of like, what do I want to do? All that sort of stuff. What would you say to her?
Well, it goes back to being curious, understanding when you're working and whatever it is, whether you're in college or if you started a job and you're already working in your job, what's where's the one place in your day that the hours just melt away and you
Mm,
love working on that particular thing? Figure that out, do more of that. And
mm,
I know people say, oh, if you love what I do, you never work a day in your life. And although that's true, obviously we're working to get paid, right? So
mm,
we're trading our value. But when you are happy and content and feel valued in the right organization, that makes such a huge difference.
mm,
And one of the things is make sure that the company that you're applying for is in line with your core values. And an easy
mm,
example is I always say, if being healthy is one of your core values, you're not going to go seek a job with a tobacco company,
yes.
because tobacco companies know that their products cause cancer and they don't care. They keep making it because people keep consuming that. So if my core value is being healthy, well, that does not align. So
Mm,
find organizations that are into doing good things in the world, that you see yourself really aligning with them, and then try to focus on those things that you love doing. Now, granted, we all have to do things in our day that we don't love,
yeah.
those menial tasks, clerical, whatever. There's always going to be that. But if the core of the job is something that you enjoy doing, then
Mm,
it's going to be a game changer. And people that are happy in their jobs, their productivity goes up 14%. So
wow.
it's a win-win for companies if they are hiring the right people for the right jobs. And just as a tangent, I'm also a certified Kolbe, Kolbe consultant. And the assessments that we do, it's for people to understand how they instinctively solve their problems. And that translates into the corporate world really well, because if a hiring manager has the Kolbe on, or incorporates the Kolbe in the hiring process, then you can tell if someone is, for example, going to be really good at fact finding, doing
Mm,
research, or are they going to be much better at brainstorming and coming up with ideas and things like that. So you really need
yeah.
to assess the individual's talent and goes with the right task or jobs, so that you can place the right people in the right jobs.
That's a really cool perspective. I think from a job hunter's perspective, looking for organizations that share similar values. Like, I think a lot of people start looking at job advertisements and go, what skills do I have? And a lot of the time, especially a lot of women that I know will look at the skills and be like, oh, I'm not good enough. Or they look at the skills and it turns them off. And whereas if you look at what companies are out there that share my similar values, you can develop the skills. I
Yeah.
feel like you might think similarly, but I think our core values are uniquely us. I think it's way harder to
Mhm.
change what's important to you than it is to develop a skill set. What's your thoughts on that?
Absolutely, I totally agree. So, and that's another thing. So, for example, I know you probably have heard of the DISC, Strengths Finder, the
Yeah.
Enneagram. All of those are more emotional assessments,
Yeah.
and then you have tests or assessments such as the IQ, the SAT, the
Mm,
ACT, even a math test. That's all cognitive, whereas the Colby is, we call it conative, the doing part of your
yeah.
mind. And so, how will you start working on a problem is such a huge blind spot that people don't know about themselves, so that they can align with not only the right company, the
Yeah.
right role as well.
Yeah. I love that. And something else you mentioned, I think regarding women feeling the sense of being stuck in their career. I think through your story, you mentioned that you were the sole carer of your two young kids, and no doubt a stable paycheck was at the forefront of your mind for a period of time there. What would you say to someone who at the moment is like, I just need this job because it generates income? I think for a lot of people, that's a legitimate reason. And yes, if your purpose for your job is to generate income and you're okay with that, then fine. Not everyone needs to love their job. I want everyone to know it's possible to love their job. But what would you say to someone who literally sees their job as a paycheck? They feel stuck in their job for that reason.
Yeah, again, it goes back to becoming alive. When you start
Mm.
uncovering that curiosity about yourself and trying to align yourself with a job that brings you joy, maybe not all day, but maybe just even a few minutes a day. To me, it's that aliveness, that
Yeah.
energy that you can generate, by the way. We are all, energy beings.
Yeah.
And if you trudge into your day, like all, oh man, it's just another Monday. Well, of course, the day is going to go like that. But if you get up and you start playing your favorite piece of music, I am now an avid meditator. I meditate almost an hour
Yeah.
every day. And that's my number one thing. If I do anything that day, that's my number one thing that I do. And it really calms your nervous system. It brings you so much, being in the
Mm.
present moment, breath work. And it's your disposition of how you want to show up in the world. So you can either choose to be grumpy and choose to be, what people call quiet quitters, or you choose to be joyous no matter what.
Quiet critters. I love that. I haven't heard that before. Thanks for sharing that. I'm
Oh, yeah.
definitely stealing that. One thing that came to mind just then is, I mean, I'm not a career coach. I support people to find fulfillment in all areas of life, but not specifically just career. And something that I always encourage, I'm seeing a lot of women at the moment who are considering career changes. My first question, or something that I look to do with them, is just to understand why they're looking to change career. If so, for example, one of my clients was like, oh, the people at work, they're manipulative and I don't trust them. And I'm like, okay, cool. I tried to get people to understand that they can create fulfillment wherever they are in their life. And if they can create fulfillment in shitty environments, then they can move in really powerfully into an environment they consciously choose is better for them. So my suggestion to her, and what I said, if this is a job that you really want, don't allow these people to stop you from pursuing that. Learn to create fulfillment in this environment if there's something that you want. What's your attitude towards, I guess, job fulfillment in that sense? So for someone who's just seeing it as a paycheck, can they change their perspective to be able to see it as more than that through some of the exercises, like you said, you just mentioned then?
Yeah, so you can still thrive in your career in spite of those people. The
Yeah.
the thing is the thing is we as human beings are allowing we're almost like marionettes. We're allowing the external world to control our feelings and emotions
Mm.
instead of taking control of our feelings and emotions, and then us, you know, shutting out the world so that we can be happy. Now, I'm going to
Mm.
be transparent with you. I don't watch the news. And the
Yep.
reason why I don't watch the news is because the news sucks the life out of my soul.
Mhm.
And when my husband always watches the news, so whenever it's morning and he's watching the news, I scurry in, get my coffee, and I
Yeah.
scurry out as quickly as I can, because the negativity from the news literally just, it's just not good.
Mm.
So instead of allowing people, annoying people, manipulative people, to control your emotions, this is where you take control of your emotions, and with your intelligence, you tell yourself, those people are not going to move my emotions. I am the
Mm.
master of my emotions. Now, obviously, we're all human beings. You feel the feelings, but the difference is acknowledging, recognizing that you're feeling those feelings, and then not reacting to it, or reacting to it and then letting that trigger go and be like, no, not going to play that game, kind of like not watching the news or not engaging in combative interactions, even at work. If someone's trying to be manipulative, all right, cool. You do you, and then I'll do me, and then you go on your merry way. and you're allowing those people to steal your joy, to steal your
Mm.
peace. And that's one thing that I've been working on, especially this year, where everything that happens in the world is an external trigger. And it
Yes.
shouldn't move your joy, regardless of what's happening around your world. And there's an amazing book by the author called Michael Singer. It's called The Untethered Soul.
Ah, yes.
And it's literally where you can still be happy, content, and joyful in spite of all the problems that you have, because we all have problems. It's just different problems, different degrees of problems, but it's up to you to figure out how you are going to react to those problems.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
100%. We're speaking the same language here. And so if, for example, someone's identified what's important to them and they're like, okay, cool, I know what I'm looking for in a career. It's not where I'm currently at. I loved how you mentioned that you have a promotion readiness checklist, whether that's within
Mhm.
an organization or moving to a new role. What is the first step between what's the step between acknowledging this is what I want and then actually going after it? An example that I'm thinking of at the moment, and I'm assuming this isn't the best way to go about it, is I've got a friend who's tossing up between two job options. She's gone back to one and was like, oh, I need some more hours. How many hours can you give me? And I'm assuming that's not the best way to go about potentially getting a promotion, is asking for more. I would assume that it's what can you give in exchange for something else, acknowledging the energy exchange there. What's your advice?
So the biggest thing is you need to, it's almost like going back to that story vault. When you, and so with my clients, what I tell them, how I tell them to create the story vault is the Muse, Muse, the Muse, it's a company that, it's a career company, and they have the top 50 behavioral interview questions for 2024. So I always say, pick 30 of those questions that are relevant to you and answer them, like physically answer them with a pen and paper or type them out, because I want the information to go through your brain, and do it when you're home and you're relaxed, because the more you're relaxed, the more you can think of different accomplishments in your past. When you're in front of the person that's interviewing you, that's not the time to think about a story. So you answer these 30 to 40 behavioral interview questions. And what that does is it triggers your mind. It reminds you of different things.
Mm.
So once you have the top 10, those are the ones that you turn into that story. And
Mm.
those 10 stories become your story vault. And then every time you go in an interview, you have your 10 stories. And the more you talk about them, the
Mm.
more confident you are in. And again, it's what is the problem that you encountered? How,
Mm.
what would have been the consequence of that problem if you had not solved it, and how you or you and your team solved the problem. And
Mm.
once you know those 10 stories, every time you go to a networking event or when you go on a job interview, all you have to do is just re-look at your story vault, and you're prepared. You know those stories by heart. And recently a few people have been asking me, Rosie, I was asked a question and I didn't know the answer, and then I didn't know what to do. I said, super easy. If you don't know the answer, you can always say, I'm not really sure about that, but I can tell you about, and then give them one of your story vault
Yeah.
stories, because that still answers the question. And then you don't necessarily, you're not sitting there like, I don't know. You know exactly what to do if that comes about. And then when you're done with the interview, in your thank you letter, you
Mm.
say, I had a chance to think about the question that you asked me, and here is my answer, because it shows that you have initiative. It shows that you went back and you thought about it. You researched the thing that you didn't know. And then that's another, feather in your cap.
I love that. I'm just thinking, I conduct a number of interviews in my full-time role, and if a candidate did exactly that, I would be like, I don't even care what you talk. I mean, of course I do, but I don't really care what you're talking about. But the initiative that you're showing right now, I know as long as the values align, I know that you would succeed with this organization. That's incredible.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah. And so I also love the idea of the 90-day plan. That really stuck out for me. What does that look like in terms of being a unique element that you can add to the application process?
Yes. The 90-day plan is, again, what I tell people, that is your secret weapon,
Mm,
because the 90-day plan, and by the way, everything that I'm talking about, you don't have to do it on your own. Use ChatGPT, use any AI tool. And I've been talking to my clients a lot about that because they get stuck and they're like, I don't know what to do. I'm like, ask ChatGPT. If I'm
mm,
not available, ask ChatGPT, because artificial intelligence is huge. And as a matter of fact, Myth, I just read this statistic that says that 1 in 4 people are using artificial intelligence for job search. So if you're not customizing your resume for every single job that you're applying for, you're holding yourself back. So it's really important. So use AI. If you don't know something, go to AI so that it can help you. But the 90-day plan, and actually, this is a perfect thing. So, what I recommend is copy and paste everything that you can find from the website, copy and paste the job description that you're going for, copy and paste even the LinkedIn link for the person that is hiring you, if you know that information, and ask ChatGPT, hey ChatGPT, I'm going to go to an interview for this company. I am
mm,
interested in creating a potential 90-day plan if I were to be
mm,
successful and land the position, and then play around with whatever it gives you. Obviously, you're going to have some ideas as to what you would do because you're already interested in that position. But the one thing that I do say is the first 30 days you want to observe and listen. The next 30 days, this is where you're building relationships, because now you know where the coffee
mm,
is and you know where your desk is and how to log into your computer and all that stuff. And then the third month, you are starting to either create your goals or start delivering, depending on if you were an individual contributor and they gave you training, or if you're a manager and you're coming up with your own onboarding plan. And then after that, you're just integrating. But really, it takes a full year to be fully
yeah.
integrated into a new position. But just having that 90-day plan, and even if it's totally off base because you don't know what you don't know about the company because
Mm,
you don't work there yet. However, it shows initiative, it shows persistence, it shows that you're a go getter, it shows that you're creative. I mean, there's so many benefits for having that 90-day plan, which is a secret weapon. And again, if you're in the same company and you're advancing to a new position, create that succession plan for the person that's coming
mm,
into your role, because you're already doing the job. And that's exactly what I did when I was going for that executive vice presidency position. For about 3 or 4 months, if I knew that I was doing something new, I would write it down. I would write down a very simple instructions. I had probably like 10 pages to give to my successor. And then that way they're not stepping in blind into a management position, first time manager. And that was hugely helpful as well. So obviously you can't do that for a new company, but you can do that for the current company that you're
mm.
that you're working at.
And what I'm hearing in everything you're saying is just how important the intention and the effort is. I think a lot of, and it sounds like from your experience when you were being overseen for manager positions, it was like, oh, I didn't make my intention clear that I wanted to be a manager. I didn't put it out in the world. It sounds like there is literally a direct correlation between the effort you put out into the world and the energy that you will likely receive in return.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
And so, if someone's listening to this and they're like, I'm done being stuck in my career, a woman's sitting here like, I know what I want now. I want and deserve better than what I'm currently accepting in my career. What would be your advice to them?
Well, first of all, become intentional with your career. Treat it like you would treat any other project. And even if you spend 1 hour a week. So imagine if at the beginning of the year, when everybody sets their goals, you dedicate 1 hour a week, or let's take 2 weeks off, 48 weeks a year. That's 48 hours that you would be dedicating to your job. And so some people might say, well, I'm on the phones, I can't take the hour. Okay, take half hour on Wednesday, take half hour on Friday from your lunch. That's your full hour. Get up 30 minutes earlier. Go to bed 30 minutes later. There's different options. And the key there is being intentional in your career and driving it forth. In the United States, there's a quote that we always say regarding real estate. It says, location, location, location. So where you live is, prime real estate. But in career development, I always say preparation, preparation, preparation. The more you prepare and get to know who you are and what value you bring, and the custom career roadmap does that. It teaches you about yourself and what value you bring, so that when someone asks you, hey, Rosie, what do you do? I empower women in the corporate world to advance their careers with intention and confidence. And it should roll off your tongue just like that. What do you do? I help people build better lives through career development or whatever. But again, the intentionality, the mindset is key. And that's what I do with certified high performance coaching. I help people change their mindset. And again, I recently had a client where we went through the high performance coaching, and she just landed a job, and she said that she um, had so much more confidence from the discovery process that she did. I guided her. I didn't do the work. I didn't do anything difficult. I guided her through every conversation. Every conversation we had, she had a light bulb go off, and like, oh, you know what? Yeah, I am the expert. And again, to your point earlier in the conversation, we women discount ourselves as, oh, I don't know anything, or I don't have all those skills on the job description, so I'm just not going to apply. Apply anyway. Don't be the person that discounts yourself. Let someone else make that decision for you.
That is a fantastic piece of advice. It's like, don't discount yourself from playing the game. At least put yourself in the arena and see what happens from there. And another quote that I can't remember who says it came to mind is, if you want something, you'll find a way. If not, you'll find an excuse. And I think that comes with the preparation. You mentioned, if you can't find an hour a week, find 2 chunks of half an hour. Like, if you're serious about creating a change in any area of life, not only your career, then you need to commit and make a conscious effort to do things differently. I think we can both say, not to say it will be easy. Chances are, if we're looking to do something that we currently don't already do, it's going to involve change. And by nature of being human beings, we often fear change, the unknown. So we're not saying it's going to be easy, but you can do it.
Yes, you are correct. And that's one thing that I'm glad you brought that up, because the custom career roadmap is not something that you're going to be able to do in one day or even
Yeah.
1 week or maybe even 1 month, because even getting advice from your peers, the recommendation is talk to 3 to 5 of your peers and ask them, hey, you and I have worked very closely together. And here's the big key about this: give them permission. Literally, you can say, I give you permission to be brutally honest with me, because I am not going to be able to grow without candid feedback. Because when you ask someone, hey, give me feedback, they're like, should I give her the
You did
feedback?
great.
No, just tell them, you have my full permission to be honest with me, because I need to uncover my blind spots. And by getting that feedback, you really uncover different skills and things like that for yourself. So it's just so important for you to do that work and be intentional with everything that you're doing. Putting in that time on your calendar, treat it like a meeting with your boss, like it's non negotiable. That's the other thing that we always do. And I'm sure you know this, Miff. We break our own promises to ourselves, but we keep promises to everybody else. So we let the external world control our calendar instead of us controlling our calendar.
Yeah, and I had a big reality check for myself with that element a couple of years ago, and the phrase that I kept saying to myself is that's double standards, and I'm not someone who likes to have double standards. If I'm willing to commit promises to everyone else but not committing them to myself, that tells me I have double standards, and no one wants to be a person who has double standards. So I completely resonate with that.
In high performance coaching, we always say, what is the cost of you breaking promises to yourself?
Just going to leave a little space there for people to contemplate that one.
Yeah.
And so I think you've given such incredible tools the whole way through this episode. And so normally I ask the guests what's a really actionable step they can do in the next 24 to 48 hours to feel unstuck in their career. And you have an incredible tool, the promotion ready checklist, that I think would be super valuable as potentially a next step. Are you able to share more about that?
Yeah, the promotion readiness checklist is a checklist. It'll take you less than 3 minutes to complete it, and essentially, it incorporates a lot of the steps about the from the custom career roadmap, and you will be able to get a score to see where you are. Are you a person that needs help? Are you a person that you're doing all the good things and you just need to continue going? So it'll give you about 10 different options of what you're doing, where you need to be, what you need to do, what you need to work on. So it's a very revealing checklist to figure out where you are in your career and what you need to work on.
Amazing. And I'll pop a direct link to the quiz in the show notes. And if someone else is keen to learn more about the work that you do, where can they find you?
The easiest place is to go to my website, which is No Woman Left Behind. And that's WOMAN, nowomanleftbehind.com.
Amazing. Again, I'll pop that one in the show notes. Thank you so much, Rosie, for your time today and being so generous with your knowledge sharing. I always learn a lot with these sorts of interviews, and I so appreciate it. And I'm sure the listeners do too.
Thank you so much, Miff, for having me and allowing me to share all my passion and expertise. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. I hope this was helpful. If you thought of someone while listening to this podcast, I would be so grateful if you could share this episode with them. While you're doing that, please also take a moment to leave a review on the podcast if you haven't yet already. It takes less than a minute and it means so much to me and helps this podcast to reach more people just like you. Thank you so much for that, and I'll see you in the next episode. In the meantime, go out and achieve every dream you have, because actually, you can.